Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon, welcome back. Today is Thursday, 30th day of September, 2021. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you can't see the screen I have up, go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds. That will give you one-click access to the show each and every day. It also gives you access to the chat box so that you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. On the days you're out of your office, away from your desktop, you can still join the show two different ways. One, you can point any internet-connected browser to cfrn.net/live. There you'll find a live, real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. You just won't have access to the chat box. Also, we stream live each day during this show on our YouTube channel. It's very easy to remember, youtube.com/CFRN. Not only do we stream live during the show, but we archive each and every daily show on our YouTube channel. Currently, we have over 1,800 daily live broadcasts archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. With that, we'll open with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your blessings, for your mercy, for your grace. Thank you that you are our strength and our song. You fill our hearts with joy. As we meet together, may we give thanks to you with our whole hearts as we recount all of your wonderful deeds. Let our hearts be glad as we exalt your name. Inhabit our praises. Let us rejoice that neither death or life, angels or rulers, things present or future, height or depth, or anything else in all of creation can separate us from your love for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Happy Thursday, guys. I do hope it's a happy Thursday for you, wherever you may be. Let me give you the numbers here from around the world. These are the cash markets, the indices as they're called. Starting in the U.S., the Dow is down 376 points. That's a little over 1%. The NASDAQ is down 28 points. The S&P 500 is down 30. And the Russell 2000, our man in the street, down 7. In the commodity basket, crude oil up 76 cents, trading 75.60 last. That's a gain of a little over 1%. Nat gas up another 19 cents today, trading 5.66 last. It's a gain of 3.5%. We published a chart, I believe it was last week. We discussed on the show the potential for a huge rally in nat gas, and it has appeared. And look at gold, up $36 on the session, trading 17.59.30 last. It's a gain of a little over 2%. Silver up 57 cents, trading 22.05 last. Now that's a gain of a little over 2.5%. In the Asian markets at the close, Nikkei posted a loss of 91 points. The Shanghai rose 31 points. The Hang Seng fell 87. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 21 points, the DAX down 104 points, and the CAC down 40. That gives us a mixed day in Asia. It was a red day in the UK, and so far it is a big red Radio Thursday here in the US of A. With that, we'll go to Michael and get a recap of what happened this morning in the live training room. After that, I'll be back. We'll take a look at the logic alerts, the concierge trade alerts, and today is Thursday, so as far as I know, Dr. Tom will be joining us at the top of the hour. So Michael, if you're ready, you can take it away. And if you're not quite ready, then I'll go ahead and pull up the recap of the Logic 247 alerts. Let me just get the recap formatted for my screen so that I can display it. Here we go. Alright, so far this week, Logic 247, that's our around-the-clock 24/7 Emini alert service. The alert channel opens for business Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, remains open till Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern when the global markets close. Since the markets opened Sunday night, we've issued a total of 57 alerts, 8 never triggered. We're still waiting on the outcome of 1. We've had 48 actionable alerts, of which 6 or 13% would have been stopped out based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade, less when possible, based on market structure, and a very simple 3-step process that we teach all of our traders. Now, those alerts, they do come out around the clock. They are based on current price action. Now, our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts, those are based on historic price action. Those do not come out around the clock. Those come out as a static report shortly after the Globex open each evening. Last night, it came out 10 minutes after the Globex session started. You notice there's 2 numbers for each market. And the way you handle this, and you'll see it when we go to the charts, for the S&P as an example, once this report is published, you would draw a line in the sand at 43.64 and a line in the sand at 43.32. If price starts trending up towards 43.64, that's bullish. So our strategy will look for opportunities to buy the market or be long, and you'll use the rules of engagement that you've learned in the live training room to yourself look for opportunities to buy the market and be long. If after this report is published, price starts trending down towards 43.32, that's bearish, and so our strategy will start looking for opportunities to sell the market or be short. And again, that's where you'll use the logic alerts and everything you learn in the live training room each day to yourself find opportunities to be short the market. We cover the S&P, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. All of the markets that we cover with Logic 247 are the same ones we cover with the CTAs, and it sounds like Michael is with us now.
I am.
If you're ready, you can take it away.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. All right.
All right. I can see your charts. It's all yours.
Excellent. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday, the last day of September 2021. Boy, what a big day was it. Get into that. If you have not taken a free trial with us and you want to, then go here to eminitrainingschool.com. On this page, just scroll down to right here. All that we ask for is your first name, your email, and your phone number. You can tell us the biggest training channel so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link, okay? If you don't click that link, we don't know that you took the free trial, so you gotta make sure you click on that link. Okay, now results. I had a whole bunch of trades this morning, so I'm gonna go through this part pretty quick, and then the trades themselves I'll go through pretty quick too, because there's a whole bunch of them to go through. But if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today, as I said, is the 30th day of September, 2021. Today, we made 36 ticks in crude, 63 ticks in gold, and 32 ticks on the ES. That put us up $1,390 a contract on the morning session. Today, it took 9 minutes and 4 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 44 trades. That's the most trades we've taken in a morning session in well over a year. So we had some firsts this year. this month, we had the first time we've had a down day. We were down in every market in well over a year. I think maybe ever. No, but in well over a year anyway. And the first time we've taken 44 trades in the morning session, or over 40 trades for that matter, in well over a year. Either way, we're up $1,390 a contract. We're going to end the month plus $10,807 a contract. That's over 20 training days, averaging $540 a contract per trading day. Now, I put all this space in here to get ready for tomorrow when I do next month, but on the year now, we've gotten our goal for the day on 186 out of 189 possible days. And on the year, we're currently at $110,810 a contract. That's over 189 trading days, averaging $586 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Now, my goal is to get to 140 by the end of the year. So that means I got to hit 10 grand for each of the next couple of months, unless I have a great month for October. I don't expect November and December are going to be great, but October should be a great month. And hopefully this is going to be the beginning of it all. So this number didn't go up greatly, even though I had a big up day. This number was still $100 a contract. So we did get the goal for the day. Now what this shows is if you were to stop trading when you got the goal for the day and added 1 contract per month, you would have traded a total of 51.8 hours and placed 588 trades so far, averaging $2,190 per hour. All right, now let's see. I'll start out with gold. We had the fewest trades in gold, so I'll start out with gold, and then I'll do the ES, and then I'll go to crude oil. Crude started out the slowest for us and ended up being the most, having the most number of trades. It wasn't the best gainer on the day, but it was the most traded on the day. All right, so gold, we started out with a break even here, and we had another break even right here, and then we picked up 13 ticks on this one. Okay, we had another break even. This one here I forgot to record, so I think we picked up 6 or 8 ticks on that, but I forgot to put it in. We picked up another 13 ticks on this one to get us to plus 26, then followed by a 6-tick gain right there to put us at plus 34. Another break even. We missed a couple of winning trades right there. Then we went from 34 to 37, so we picked up a few ticks right there. Then right here we went from 37 to 53. So 47, 16 ticks, 17 ticks, no, 16 ticks, 16 ticks on that move. And then the one right after it, we picked up another 9 ticks and then another 9 ticks. That put us up at 71. Then we finally stopped out right here, put us back down to 63. And that was where we finished trading with gold. Okay, so we ended up right in here. We had a big trade followed by 2 other nice trades. And things were moving along so fast this morning that it was just, well, it started out slow, but then it just got going so fast. I was trying to go through everything as fast as I could and still make sense to everyone. During the break, there's some short trades, one here, one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. And I believe what I said at the end of the morning session, I didn't say anything much about gold, but I did say something about crude, and I'll get to that in just a few minutes. But gold was all up all morning, and now you can see it's doing a retracement. This is a 30-minute, and it's doing a retracement back down here. We should find a little bit of support here and then here, and it wouldn't surprise me to see gold do a huge retracement all the way down to here toward the BBC. It'd be down in the 1744 area. It wouldn't surprise me to see it do that big of a retracement, but it also wouldn't surprise me to see it turn around right here at the 1752 area. Either way, we picked up 63 ticks in gold this morning. On the ES, now we had a bunch of trades on the ES too. Most of them in the morning, in the first part of the morning. But you can see the ES was all over the place. All the markets were, it's the end of the quarter today. So it's the end of the quarter, end of the month, and there was just a ton of opportunity. So we started out here on the ES with a break even. We followed up with 4 ticks there, 4 ticks there, and 4 ticks there. At that point, we're at plus 12. We had a break even right in there, and now you can see the ES. I was pointing out the areas that it should get to. It didn't get to this one, but it was getting to the other ones when I had time to point them out. Now we went from plus 12 here to plus 20 right there. We picked up 8 ticks on that one. Missed a long trade right there that would have been break even. Missed a short trade here that would have stopped out to the tick. If it stopped you out, it would have been to the tick. Otherwise, it would have given you some profit. Then in here, we picked up 2 more ticks to put us at plus 24. Then we stopped out, put us back down to 16. Missed a bounce off the BBC right here. Then we picked up 8 ticks here to put us back up to 24. Then we picked up 8 more ticks here to put us at 32. Missed a trade there. Then it started moving around, and I wasn't doing anything when it started trading in here like this and like this. But that's when crude oil started to activate, and it started to get crazy with crude. I missed this nice short here, but at this point we're at 32. We went from 32 to 40, so I picked up 8 ticks there. Then I had a break even there. Then I stopped out there, and that put me back at 32. I believe that's where we ended trading. It is where we ended trading. But there were some other nice trades that happened that triggered here, and I know some of the guys got this move right here toward the end of the session this morning. And yeah. And so that was all of that. Now during the break, during the break, we didn't have anything in this whole move down right here. We didn't have anything that we could do. Then it went sideways a little bit. It gave a long trade right in here off the BBC, and then it just got totally sideways right there. Okay, that was ES. Now crude oil. All right, now crude oil, I was coming back here and looking at this. Now I was expecting during the last hour that it was going to retrace down to here. It didn't get all the way down there. It only got down to here, 74.85. This could be the candle that does it. I don't expect it's going to do it in this half-hour period, but maybe by 1 o'clock, it could drop all the way down here. But this morning when we were in the morning session and I looked over here at crude, now it started out really slow, crude did. And then about 20 minutes before the top of the hour, I said, look for it to get up here by the top of the hour. Look for it to get up to this number right here, 75.40. And at the time, price was down here somewhere. And it went up and then it came back down. Within this candle, it went up and it came back down. And then I said, look for it to get up there. And you'll see we had some nice trades on the way up there. And we had one on the way down, I believe, that I actually got into. Okay, well, let's go here. We'll start out right here. Now, I missed this very first trade right here, and I grabbed the next one. This was starting out slow with crude. Okay, so we had 2 ticks from that one. Then we had a mistrade there, a mistrade there. This would have been a break even, maybe a little profit. This would definitely give me some profit if I hadn't failed. This one here, it went up nicely, but it would have been a break even. The next one here, I picked up 6 ticks to put me at +8. Now at this point, we're just about a half hour in. Okay, and I started putting in numbers for it to get to, and it was pretty much doing that. We ended up with a break even trade on this one, and here we went from 8 to 13. So we picked up 5 ticks there. Then we went from 13 to 15, so we picked up 2 ticks there. I think these two are backwards. And we picked up 2 there and 5 there. But at this point, we're at 15. Right, then we had a couple more ticks here. And then, yeah, I think we went to 16. And then we stopped out right there, went to 8. Then we had a break even there. Then we had another stop out here. And we went to 0. Okay, so from 0 on crude at this point, we hadn't had too many trades, but it all started coming in. Now, remember I had said that I expected it to get up to here when it was back here. I had said look for it to get up to 74.40 by the top of the hour. All right, and this was at 10:49. And then it pulled back and it gave us one short trade right here that I stopped out on. Now that was my fault. I shouldn't have stopped out on that. And this one was also my fault. Okay, I shouldn't have even taken this one. So both of those stop outs were my fault. Okay, but at this point we were back to 0. We should have been at +16, but we're back to 0. Then I picked up 7 ticks right here to get us at +7. And then I stopped out again right here to get me down to -1. Then I picked up 2 ticks to get me to +1. Then 20 ticks on this move right here to get me to +21. Then 10 ticks right here. Now you see 74.40 is what I was going for on the larger time frame. At the top of the hour, 74.40 is what I was going for. And we hit it. And then we went right through it. Now up here I had picked up 10 more to get me a +31. Then up here I picked up 12 more to get me to 43. Then I stopped out, back down to 35. I missed a trade there. Now you can see I was drawing in the lines here for it to get to when it was going in those directions. And I was drawing in the pullback areas and all that stuff too. And over here on this one, we stopped out when we went down to 35, then we went back up to 37, then we went back right here back to 37, then back down to 29, then back to 35 on this one, and somehow I got one more tick somewhere. There was one trade, I think it was probably right here. I got one more tick to get us to 36. Okay, and that's where we ended the morning session. Now, during the break, there was a short right in here, a long right there, a short right here. That is about it. So it was really active trading this morning. I placed 44 trades in the morning session this morning. Let's go back to the spreadsheet. So if you're going to read this, you got to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the last day of September 2021. Made 36 ticks in crude, 63 ticks in gold, and 32 ticks on the ES. It put us up 1390 on the morning session. Today it took 9 minutes and 4 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 44 trades this morning. So on the month now, that puts us at $10,807 a contract. That's over 20 trading days, averaging $540 per contract per 2-hour trading day. All right, so on the year, we've gotten the goal now on 186 out of 189 days, and that puts us at $110,810 a contract. That's over 189 days, averaging $586 per contract per 2-hour trading day. So $586 on the year, and what we finished the month at? $540. Okay, so if we can maintain the 500 86, I think, for the rest of the year, then we should get my goal of 140,000 on the year. This over here, if you were to quit trading when you got the goal for the day and you added one contract per month all year, you would have only traded 51.8 hours so far this year. And you would have averaged $2,190 per hour. Okay. Now, if you've not taken a free trial with us and you want to, go here to eminitrainingschool.com. Here, all that we ask for is your first name, your email, and your phone number. You can tell us the biggest trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. All right, do that, hit the send button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link, okay? If you don't click the confirmation link, we don't know that you took the free trial, so you gotta do that. All right, that's it, guys. With that, we can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Okay.
Okay.
All right, there you go, Dwayne. It is back to you.
Okay.
All right, almost there.
Almost there.
There it is.
Still
There
working.
it is.
There we go. All right. Recap of the recap.
Today, it took 9 minutes and 4 trades to get to $100 per contract.
Good job.
Thank you.
As always. Okie doke. Alright, I already shared this, but if anybody was late to the show, so far this week, Logic 247, Michael just went over everything that happened in the last 2 hours from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. Eastern in the live training room. That's where you learn the rules of engagement. That's where you learn what the trade setup is, how to read the indicators, how to put on takeoff trades, the underlying principles of everything that we do. And everything that we do, whether it's in the room in the morning or the alerts, everything is fluid across all markets and all time frames. Now, the global markets open Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, and they stay open around the clock till Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. Our day session is the night session for the folks across the pond, and vice versa. And so with traders around the world, the alerts for Logic 247 come out as opportunity presents itself. Could be 2 a.m., could be 2 p.m. And the good news is if you miss an alert when it comes out, you don't have to worry. There's already a time buffer built in before it's going to trigger. And once an alert triggers, there's a greater probability of it triggering multiple times than not triggering multiple times. So Logic has issued so far this week, since Sunday night, 57 total alerts. 8 never triggered. 57 issued, 8 never triggered, still waiting on the results of 1. So we've had 48 actionable alerts, of which 13% would have been stopped out based on not risking more than $300 per contract, per trade, less when possible, based on market structure, and a very simple 3-step process that we teach all of our traders. Okay, before we dive into the chart, take a look here at a couple of headlines. YouTube is banning all anti-vax content. So does that mean we have to be careful what we say on this show? Yeah, pretty much to a degree. We're still going to, well, let me speak for myself. Not CFRN or the management or anyone else, but I'm very concerned about the vaccination. The fact that so many medical professionals, and I talked about this yesterday, so many medical professionals are losing their job, their career, because they don't want to take this vaccination, and they know a whole lot more about medicine than I do. About all I know about medicine has to do with, Band-Aids and going to the ER. That's my medical knowledge. So when I see these professionals who went to school for many years, You don't become a nurse overnight. You don't become a doctor overnight. A lot of education. And yet they are hesitant. For whatever the reason, they are hesitant to take this vaccination, so much so that they're willing to lose their job. That is the hugest red flag to me. And the pressure being applied through all kinds of methods, not only threatening people's livelihood, but lottery tickets and drawings and gifts. And why the mad push to vaccinate someone against something that, if they actually contract it, has less than a 1% chance of taking their life? Now, every life is precious. Any life lost to COVID-19 is a tragic loss. And so, our hearts and our prayers are with all folks who have lost a friend, a loved one, a co-worker to COVID-19. But when you look at the numbers and you look at the statistics, it hasn't been any worse than a bad flu season, and it's been a lot worse than a really bad flu season. So now YouTube, which has hundreds of thousands of hours of content uploaded on a daily basis. I think they say if people stopped uploading content today and you sat down and watched everything that's already on YouTube around the clock, it would take you something like 30 years. If you never slept, never went to the bathroom, it would take you like 30 years to view all the content that's already on it. But YouTube is banning all anti-vax content. The company announced it will ban all content that claims approved vaccines do not work or are harmful, not just misinformation about COVID-19 shots. Business Insider found at least 2 people from a group called the Disinformation Dozen are on the platform. The ban really diverges from the industry's traditionally hands-off approach. So I have a sister-in-law right now who has appealed on basis of faith or religious beliefs against not taking this shot. She has a pretty good job, but she says God, and I'm talking about my sister-in-law who runs the prayer group every morning on Facebook Live, that I put the link out for you guys. You're welcome to join any day. It's Monday through Friday. She goes live about 10 a.m. Eastern. It lasts about 15-20 minutes. If you have a prayer request, you can just show up and she'll be happy to pray for you or pray for your loved one. But she believes that God specifically spoke to her and said, don't take the vaccination. So, a lot to be concerned about, but I guess enough on that. Slack wants its executives to limit their office days to 3 days a week. The company wants its senior leadership to come to the office less often in order to encourage other staff members to work from home. Also, they're going to do away with their executive-only floors. Don't know if you've ever worked with a company in a high-rise where the upper levels, the C-suites as they're sometimes called, there's floors where you got to be, you got guys, you have folks casually dressed on the ground floor and maybe some of the other floors, but there's certain floors that are reserved for the suits, as they're called. Slack is going to do away with the executive-only floors. Insiders who have worked on Amazon's home robot, which we talked a little about yesterday, share mixed feelings. Depending upon who you ask, Astro, that's the name of the Amazon robot. If you're old enough You might remember a cartoon back in the day called The Jetsons. It was about this futuristic family that had a robot. Now, I think Astro was actually, it wasn't the name of their robot. I think Astro was their dog. But anyway, depending upon who you ask at Amazon, and this is the people who actually worked on the robot, say that Astro is either the world's greatest tech innovation or Amazon's biggest flop. Some say it's a gimmicky product that will almost certainly throw itself down a flight of stairs. LinkedIn is removing journalists' profiles on its Chinese website over prohibited content. LinkedIn, which said it has to adhere to Chinese laws to operate there, don't give users any specifics about why their profiles were banned. And I don't know that I can get past the paywall on this one, but let me just look. No, I cannot. So if you Google LinkedIn prohibited content China, I'm sure you'll find an article if you have an interest. Leaked Facebook documents show that the company saw preteens as an untapped audience. Documents found by the Wall Street Journal reveal the company's plans to lure in kids, including leveraging playdates, to get more children using the Messenger Kids app. The demographic Facebook was going after were what are called tweens, children between the ages of 10 and 12 years old. Now, let's think about this for a minute. Facebook's a very successful company, no doubt. Mark Zuckerberg became one of the youngest ever self-made billionaires in history. Just looking at a message that popped up. Sorry. Okay, Mark Zuckerberg does not need more money. I don't think. I think he's got more than, if he stopped earning today and started spending like a madman, it would take him a long time, spend all that dough. The company itself, Facebook, is financially very healthy. I don't know what their market cap is these days. I don't know what their latest valuation is, but I don't think the company needs more money. Now, a lot of the executives out in Silicon Valley have been very vocal in stating that they allow their children very limited usage to the internet, to social media, because they want their children to grow up to be, quote unquote, normal, okay, in the digital age. So with all the money they already have and all the success they already have they become so desperate to track down the one demographic that they've not yet got a real hook into? Children between the ages of 10 and 12 years old. I don't know. I guess you'll have to sort that out. The power players behind Web Summit have fallen out and are in a legal fight in California. David Kelly and Patrick Cosgrave, two of the tech conference's co-founders, are on opposite sides of a dispute over their huge venture capital fund. Netflix has acquired a video game studio in a major move to further its gaming ambitions. We all know how popular gaming is, not only with our kids, but young adults, and in some cases 40-year-old men and women still living in mom's basements playing Call of Duty all day instead of being a productive member of society. If we step back a few years to the early days of Silicon Valley, the young kids, well, I don't, not kids, young adults, were more interested in how it worked and how to make it work. But we seem to have a generation now who really doesn't have much interest in how or why it works, because they grew up with it. It always has been. It would be like you and I being concerned about why air works. I don't know why it works, it just works. It's always been here. But this generation is more interested in just playing the games, and even spending real money to buy virtual tools. They buy clothing and outfits and weapons and all kinds of things, using, in some cases, mom and dad's real money to buy these virtual tools online so that their character in their favorite video game can win. Win what? Just win. There is a professional side to esports, they call it, and some young talented players have gone on to win or to earn large sums of money as companies sponsor them for their teams. So now Netflix, the streaming giant, has announced its purchase of Night School Studio, a game developer known for Oxenfree. It is a 2016 supernatural thriller game. The purchase brings it one step closer to offering video games alongside its films and TV shows. So that means when you log into your Netflix account, you can watch a TV show, you can watch a movie, or you can play video games. Apple's former design chief, Johnny Ive, you should know that name if you're an Apple fanboy or lady. If you've read the autobiography of the founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, you know who Johnny Ive is. He is the one who designed the iconic Apple products like the iPhone, the Mac, the iPod. He is now working with the luxury car maker to produce its first ever electric vehicle. Yes, there's an electric Ferrari silently coming to your street. Elon Musk is identifying, or has devoted his time recently, to a fully reusable SpaceX rocket. Musk calls the project Starship. You might be familiar with that term. The Holy Grail, Starship, the Holy Grail, and said it could cost less than $1 million. A reusable spaceship, a reusable rocket, for $1 million. You send it out, come back down. It's like a ride at Disneyland. You stand in line, you climb on, you buy your ticket, very expensive, climb on board, take a run out in space, come back, and as you're offloading, the folks standing in line are climbing aboard. My, how things have changed. I know many of us in this audience remember the first space launch and man walking on the moon. That was a big deal. On Capitol Hill, it looks like the Senate has reached a deal to avert a shutdown. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced late Wednesday, ahead of a Thursday morning vote. I don't know how that vote has gone this morning, but the House is expected to sign off after the Senate vote. If the measure passes, it will keep federal agencies from running out of money at midnight. Democrats separated proposals to raise the debt ceiling and fund the government into two bills on Wednesday, hoping to get at least the spending bill passed. Some Republicans are expected to support the government funding bill, which also includes emergency disaster aid, but they have refused to back any Democratic attempt to raise the debt ceiling. Democrats also scramble to work out internal differences over the $1 trillion infrastructure bill and a $3.5 trillion spending bill, seeking to expand the social safety net. And that's just about all the news worth reporting. There was a gang war in an Ecuador prison that left at least 116 people dead. This happened in a prison. A battle between rival gangs at the Littoral Penitentiary in Guayaquil, Ecuador, left at least 116 inmates dead and another 80 injured. This was the worst penitentiary massacre in the South American country's history. And Judge Brenda Penny on Wednesday granted a petition from Britney Spears' lawyers to have her father suspended as overseer of the singer's $60 million estate. She's 39, and for 13 years, her father has had control over all of her finances, how much money she could spend, what she could spend it on. She says that she's traumatized, and it looks like the judge agrees and is going to set her free. So, Brittany, we wish you all the very best. All right, let's go to the charts. S&P 500, E-mini futures. Scrunch this up a little bit. Okay. So, here's what we know. All-time historic intraday high, all-time historic closing high. We've now spent more days below the BBC than we have all year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We're on our 15th day below the BBC. Pullbacks hold more often than they don't. This one held, this one held, this one held. And then as price got below the BBC and pulled up to the BBC, that held, and that held, and that held. So again, the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. So yesterday, price got, we had a flash of blue here on the CFMA1. I refer to it as blue and climbing, red and falling. That flash of blue had to do with the fact that we ran up and challenged the 62% fib retracement. And then on this day, right here, we reached up to the area that we talked about all last week, that this would be the last obstacle, right where the bearish cross took place. Whenever we have a bearish cross that leads to an extended move, when price revisits that area for the first time, we expect that to be good resistance. And it was almost as if we choreographed it, but we don't have that ability. 1, 2, 3 up days, and then on the 4th day, we opened green and we ran right up to the spot we highlighted again every day last week. And it sent us right back below the BBC, back below the 62% fib. Okay, now we spiked the fib on this day, and this day, but ultimately it held, put us back below the BBC, which sent us down to this low right here on September 28th. And on September 28th, we had a price low of 43.3475. Buyers came in, bounced us up to red and falling, and yesterday we talked about the fact that red and falling overhead now again should be good resistance, and it was. We ran up and touched it yesterday, but we closed well off the high, down at the 24% reverse fib. And then last night we opened, we rallied up to the step line and the 38% reverse fib. And then buyers backed off when they recognized they could not push this rock uphill any further. Buyers stepped back, and when buyers stop buying, that's when the institutional sellers come out of the woodwork and do this. Okay? Now, back last week, we drew in this window of opportunity. We made it about halfway through that window of opportunity, on this day, September 22nd, which sent us up to do all the things I just discussed. And now this morning, we have come down through that window of opportunity. Our lowest weekly trading zone this week for the S&P is 4323/24, which is right about the low of this candle. So we made it through that window. Okay. Now we had drawn this in previous, and that window filled. If price continues to drop, right now the low of the day, of course, that's support, and you can see it's right at the top of this window. This window has filled. First time it filled halfway, this time it filled all the way. So now we're waiting to see if this window will fill again. That will give us a 100% retracement of this move up that began. We put in the low September 20th, and we spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days climbing up to that bearish cross, which became the resistance we anticipated, which then sent the market back down to the low of that window. Okay, close the window. Question is, do buyers have enough commitment? And I'm talking the institutional buyers, the hedge funds, the deep pockets. Can they push this rock up the hill? Or is what appears to be the path of least resistance what comes next? Once we take out this low, the low of today, which currently is, I'd say it currently is, it's like 43.05. If we take that out, then we look for a continued move down to the low of this day, which is roughly 42.90. It looks like that needs to be tightened up a little bit. Let's see if we can do that. There we go. Well, I had it. Doesn't want to sit right on the low, but the low of that day was 42.93.75. If we take out 42.93.75, then the next window of opportunity is right here at about 42.90 down to 42.60. That's a 30-point window. We could find potential support at this low. If that low is taken out, and the next window of opportunity is roughly 42, we'll call it 42.35 down to 42.21. So that's everything you need to know off the daily chart. Let's go to the S&P 30-minute chart. Okay, last night the CTA, and I showed you the CTAs at the beginning of the show. Dr. Tom's going to join us in 5 minutes. Thereabouts. The long CTA last night was 43.64. And on the short side, it was 43.32. And right there, that is our lowest weekly trading zone for this week. All right. So this vertical line separates today, Thursday, from yesterday, Wednesday. That line there belongs there. Okay. So the market opened. We were just below the BBC. Price managed to get above the BBC. That's the green line. Bull, bear, cross. Bullish above it, bearish below it. So we triggered 43.64, and initially we make a run up to, well, initially we get up to about 43.66, 2 points. Then we come back to the trigger, and this time we make it up to 43.68, that's 4 points. So we had a 2-point move followed by a 4-point move, and then price dipped back below the trigger again, and from 43.64 we put in a high at 43.89. So 89 minus 64, that's 25 S&P points at $50 a point. It's $1,250 per contract traded. That's what the market made available. We had 2-point trigger, a 4-point move, and a 25-point move. So the market made $1,250 per contract traded available. But it did not make it to the final target, which was the zone overhead. On a long alert, the final trade to target is always the zone above, and on a short, it's always the zone below. So price comes back down to the trigger, okay? But now we've got red and falling. You see, on these triggers, we've got blue and climbing, and that's what we want. What we don't want to do is, as we dipped below the trigger here and triggered, we're not interested in taking these triggers because we've got red and falling, and that represents resistance. Price, however, did reach up to the BBC, which we expect to be good resistance until proven otherwise. And resistance is exactly what we got. The CTA on the short side was 43.32, and the target was the zone below, which is 43.23/24. That's 8 points at $50 a point. That's $400 per contract traded. And so far we've only had one trigger on the S&P. Okay. All right. On the Dow. Let's see if we can shrink this up. There we go. Okay. So here's the open last night. Just like the S&P, price gets above the trigger. We trigger, and it takes us right to the target from 375 to 535. 535 minus 375 is 160 points at $5 a point. That's $800 per contract traded. $800 per contract traded from the published entry to the published target. Price could not get through that zone resistance, and when price finds resistance that it can't overcome, it turns around and goes to look for support. And so price got back below the BBC. We sliced through this zone. Well, actually it's more of a consolidation because the previous candle did come down and touch it. But we triggered the short side after that beautiful $800 per contract long trigger. We triggered on the short side at 34,225, and it took us right down to the target. So if we take 34,225 minus 33,845, that's 380 points at $5 a point. That's $1,900 per contract traded. Say it again. One contract from the published entry to the published target. $1,900. Not much more to say. And when price hits a weekly trading zone, from when it drops to a zone, what do we expect? Support. What's the most likely thing to happen? Consolidation. So the market, it's Sometimes the market's kind. It does the next high probability thing to the tick, practically. And where you want to get to in your journey with us, as a lifetime member, as a passport holder, is you want to be able to look at a chart. You want to be able to identify these areas, these windows of opportunity yourself. We want to get you to the point where we don't want you to go away because you're a lifetime member. We enjoy your company, but we want to get you to the point where you don't need us anymore. Okay? And it takes a little time, but the good news is you have 2 hours of live instruction every day from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern, plus 2 hours here in the afternoon. And every Thursday night, and today's Thursday, we have the members only workshop. So if you've been on the trial and you're ready to become a passport holder, a lifetime member, you can go to eminifuturestrading.com. You can call Valerie at 949-42-EMINI, or you can send an email to support@cfrn.net. Under the Russell, okay, the Russell price stalled out at the long CTA. The swing high there was 22.5140. 2 points is $100. So we didn't quite get the 2 points here. Price behaves around a CTA number, often just like it does around a weekly trading zone. You'll either get consolidation, rejection, or the slice. We consolidated, we tiptoed over the line, but we did not get the move to the target. On the short side, the CTA number is 2207, and we put in a swing low at 21.99.90, so we'll just call that 2200. That's 7 points, $50 a point, $350 per contract traded. Yes, Del, the Logic 247 alerts come out around the clock, 24/7. If you have a specific question about one, ask, or we can talk about it tonight, as you said, in the partners meeting, whichever you want. If you have a specific question, I'll be happy to answer for you. The Logic alerts will quite often walk you right up to the doorstep of the CTA. So far this week, again, on Logic 247, we've had 57 alerts, 8 never triggered, still waiting on 1, 48 actionable alerts, which 13% would have been stopped out based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade, less when possible, using market structure and that simple 3-step method we teach all of our traders. Okay, that sounds like my friend and yours, Dr. Tom. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, sir. And everybody, you should get signed up for Dwayne's program because he guarantees you'll triple your money every week. Okay. So, you know, all you have to have is like $100 to start with. And in a year's time,
And if you don't have that, we'll loan it to you.
You're a millionaire. Yeah, that's right. So,
oh, that's funny. So how you doing?
I'm doing fine, brother. How about you doing? Or how are you doing?
I'm a little concerned, to be honest with you. I mean, there's a lot happening in the world, but this this vaccination thing, when I see, and I've already talked about this the show today, and I talked about it yesterday, but it's on my mind. I mean, we have all of these medical professionals. You know, my medical knowledge extends to the Band-Aids are in the cabinet in the bathroom on the left. I mean, that's my I know that you were an EMT, a paramedic. You have some medical knowledge, but here's men and women, whether they're doctors or nurses. You know, they spent many years in college, going to school, learning to practice the art of medicine, and they would rather, or they're willing to lose their job than take the shot. And even I read a headline earlier. In fact, it was one of the first ones. YouTube had announced today that they will ban all anti-vax content. Company announced it will ban all content that claims approved vaccines don't work or are harmful. Not just misinformation about COVID-19 shots. So there is so much pressure to get this jab. And I've watched videos and read blog posts from obvious crackpots denouncing the vaccination. And I've also watched videos and listened to very learned, respectable people who have a whole string of, letters after their name, from MD to PhD, you name it. And these really smart people who know a thing or two about medicine, if they're not willing to take this shot, and it appears that it's going to come down. Now, I said this early in the year, jokingly on this program. I never expected it to become a reality, but it looks like it's about to. At some point, if they can't force you to do it by taking your job, if they can't bribe you by actually paying you money to take the shot, they're going to be left with only one other, you're shunned from restaurants, you're shunned from movie theaters, you're shunned from, sporting events. The last resort will be for them to show up at your doorstep and say, our records indicate you've not taken the shot. So I'm here today to do one of two things. I'm either going to shoot you in the arm, or I don't carry this 45 for show. What's it going to be?
Yeah.
Will you kneel to whoever's behind all this? Will you kneel and bow? Will you take the mark or not? So I'm not saying this is the mark of the beast. I'm not saying it's not either. But anyway, I don't believe, because I know too many good Christian, Bible-believing, God-loving people who have willingly taken the shot because their government told them it was the best thing for them to do, and they trusted.
They drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts?
Well, my thought is this is more about control than anything. As far as what's in the vaccine, it's all speculation.
Yeah.
They could have something in the vaccine, because with nanotechnology, they could be 1,000 miles away, flip a switch, and activate something that's in that nano machine. They actually call them machines, but they're little tiny microscopic things you couldn't even see, that could trigger and give you the virus, or cause your aging process to accelerate, or anything they wanted to do. All of that is scientifically, technically possible. So we could speculate about that all day long, and there's no way to know. There's been reports that there's mercury is part of this thing. Various different types of substances that you don't want in your body, but they don't tell you what's in it. And one of my biggest complaints has been the fact that if you go down and get a flu shot, they have to give you a form informing you of all the dangers of taking a flu shot, which include death, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's called informed consent, and you have to sign it. That's really
Now you're talking about, this is for just the regular ordinary flu shot, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
influenza A or B.
Okay.
When it comes to an experimental drug, which this is what this is, and I know they're now saying it's an approved drug, but let me come back to that in a second.
Do you want
But
to circle
the law-
back?
Yeah, circle. But the law says that anytime you administer any experimental drug or treatment to anyone, you have to give fully informed consent. They have to sign it. You have to do a medical history on them. There are people that are getting this vaccine that it's contraindicated for. In other words, they have medical conditions that they shouldn't be taking the vaccine. But I've talked to hundreds of people who've taken the vaccine who no medical history was taken on. They didn't ask them one single question, except your name and social security number or your vaccine passport, which, by the way, Biden said a year ago there would never be. There would never be a vaccine passport. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I do remember.
now we have it. So all this time, it's been an experimental drug. It takes 10 years on average to develop and safety test a vaccine before it should ever be released to the public. The fastest it's ever been done in history was 4 years. They did this in 10 months. So it wasn't a vaccine. It was only approved as an experimental drug by the FDA. By definition, their vaccine is not a vaccine. And I asked my cardiologist about this, who told me straight out that he has at least 2 patients who've died. He is certain, as a medical doctor with 20 years of experience, he's certain the reason they died was because of the vaccine. They got the vaccine. Within 24 hours later, they were extremely ill. He tried to save their lives. They died. He has, at that point, this is a couple months ago, 8 other patients who had similar experiences that he was able to save. So we know there have been thousands of people who've died as a result of the vaccine. Most of them were not given informed consent and never signed saying that they'd been given informed consent. So I asked him, I said, well, why don't they just go ahead and have the FDA approve it? He says, because if people get sick and die from it, and it's a drug that the drug company applied for and got approval for, then they can be sued. But as long as it's approved only as an experimental drug, then they can't be sued for it. So what happened? Pfizer finally got approval after them using this for, 6 months now? Pfizer, very political.
Yeah, I think lots of the folks who took the vaccination early on didn't even realize that it hadn't been approved by the FDA yet.
Well, most people still don't. They still think it's a vaccine.
Yeah.
There's 3 major producers: Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer. So here's what happened. Before the election, Pfizer said that they knew 3 weeks before the election that they had a vaccine that worked. They had done the testing. We were ready to announce it, but they withheld the announcement until after the election, helping Joe Biden get elected. And Pfizer then lied and said that the Operation Wildfire, whatever Trump called it, where he put billions and dollars and thousands of
Warp Speed, I think, was the
Operation Warp Speed. Right. He was the one. There would never have been a vaccine in 10 months. Never would have happened. But he just put all the power of the presidency, and he pushed these drug companies and so on, and made them make it a super priority.
Do you think he pushed them possibly too hard?
Well, that's not the point I'm making.
No, I know
he may have, because I don't think it's a safe vaccine. But the point is, Pfizer publicly stated and later retracted. They said that Operation Warp Speed had nothing to do with their success in developing the vaccine. They lied about it. So they were very political. They were very pro-Biden.
Mm-hmm.
So now, almost a year later, they apply for, suddenly, out of the blue, for approval and get approval as a vaccine, but only Pfizer. Okay. And again, I believe that's political. I think that Biden pushed them into doing it and more or less made them apply. So now everybody thinks, oh, well, they've got approval for the vaccine. Only Pfizer does. J&J hasn't even applied. Moderna hasn't applied, unless something has happened that I have missed in the news. And as you know, I watch it pretty closely.
Yeah.
So it's just been a farce all the way around. First of all, they made people think that it was a vaccine when it wasn't. And now that they've got one of them approved, it's like the U.S. debt. They say, well, we got our AAA credit rating back that was taken away 11 years ago. We don't. Okay. You have to be approved by all three of the credit rating agencies to have a AAA credit rating. There's 12 nations of the world that have it. We're not one of them. We used to be the only one. The USA does not have a AAA credit rating, but they can manipulate it and say, well, we've got approval by S&P, but they don't have it from Moody's and Fitch, which are just as important. So it's the same principle. They say that, oh, it's been approved as a vaccine now, but it was only Pfizer. But most people will believe that all the stuff they're getting shot up with is approved. But I would say to anybody listening, make sure that they take a full medical history on you if you're going to take this thing, and that they give you in writing full disclosure of all the risks. Because one of the risks, if you're a young man, is myocarditis.
Mm-hmm.
Myocarditis is an infection of the heart. The most vaccinated country in the world right now is Israel.
Right.
They've got one of the highest infection rates.
I
in
know.
the world.
I was, and one of the lowest rates. The least vaccinated country is India, and they got one of the lowest rates.
Exactly. The other thing is that they made all the guys in the military, they're mostly guys younger, in their 20s, the majority, get it. And they've had a 2,500% increase, not a 25% increase, 2,500%, 250 times more incidences of myocarditis than they've ever had in history. I mean, it's almost unheard of in young men, yet it's a deadly disease. And the only common connecting factor is the vaccine. So, it's one thing, if they said, everybody that's over 70 years old, or almost everybody who dies from this, who dies from it, not who gets sick from it, but who actually croaks, is over 80 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And the next biggest group is over 70.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeking permission right now to give it to infants 6 months old. Okay, so if somebody my age took it, I'm not going to, but if I did, if I took the vaccine and 10 years from now, it, made my left arm fall off, or I get, my bowels stop working, or,
Right.
Some kind of horrible side effect. Okay, I only had maybe 10 or 20 more years to live. But to give it to a child, I have a good friend, I love him to death, but I told him, I said, for fear for himself, he forced his children, 12 and 16, to get the vaccine. And I said, that is child abuse. You making your kids get that vaccine, because a lot of the effects of even approved, FDA approved, tested drugs don't appear for 20, 30, sometimes 50 years. I mean, thalidomide's a good example. An FDA approved drug in use in hospital operating rooms for decades. Terrible birth defects started appearing. Children born without eyes or with arms and without bowels. Can you imagine living your life without a small intestine and large intestine? Well, this is an FDA approved drug. You
All right,
don't
which
know.
drug are you referring to?
I'm sorry?
The people who were born with these birth defects, that was from taking, was it thalidomide that you're referring to?
I think that's how it's pronounced, thalidomide.
Thalidomide, okay.
It was
I had
a
an
drug
employee.
given.
I had an employee for a number of years who, his mother took thalidomide during her pregnancy with him, and he was born with some defects with the short arms that you mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of them much worse. But the thing is, it was FDA approved and it was properly tested. But no matter how well you test, look, I took a course in pharmacology when I was in college. And our professor was not just a regular doctor of pharmacology. He had a PhD in pharmacology. So, you can get. And so he taught not just classes like ours for nurses and paramedics, but he also taught pharmacists. And his very first statement, I'll never forget this, first thing he said to us, the first class, was all pharmaceutical drugs are poisons.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
good to know. I just looked it up, the thalidomide scandal. The late 1950s and early 60s, the use of thalidomide in 46 countries. And of course, other countries follow us. If we approve it, then most other countries, they don't have the resources we do to do all the testing. So they just say, so good enough for the US, it's good enough for us. So 46 countries by women who are pregnant who subsequently became pregnant, became the biggest man-made medical disaster ever. That, if you describe that today, it would be the China virus, which was created by the Chinese deliberately to kill people. But at that point, in the 50s and 60s, the biggest man-made medical disaster. It resulted in more than 10,000 children born with a range of severe deformities. There was a lot of less severe things, such as phocomelia, as well as thousands of miscarriages. So at least 10,000 born with severe deformities. Who knows how many with not so severe? And thousands of babies that just flat died, never were born. It was developed and released by a small, relatively new German pharmaceutical company in 1954. The company, listen to this, had been established by Hermann Wirtz, a Nazi party member after World War II, as the subsidiary of the family's Maurer and Wirtz company. The company's initial aim was to develop antibiotics, but then they got into this anti-nausea medication. I didn't know that. That's it's kind of interesting. A Nazi party member developed it. But the point is, it was aggressively marketed by them for anxiety, trouble sleeping, tension, morning sickness. Well, it's a wide market. And they spent a lot of money pushing it, and I'm sure bribing some FDA officials. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But I just simply do not trust the FDA, and I'll take my chances with a drug that has a 0.00009 chance of killing me before I'll inject myself or allow myself to be injected with something that I don't know what's in it.
Well, that's where I'm at. That's where my wife is. That's where our household. We're going to say no.
Or trust in the Lord.
Trust in God. If it truly does become a question of life and death, you're either going to die. You know what I mean. It's like that horrible scenario I spoke about earlier, where they show up at your door, and you're going to get shot one way or the other. Could it ever possibly come to that in the United States of America? A year ago, I bet I would have said no, but after what we've seen unfold so far this year, I can't say no with that same degree of certainty. A year ago, I would have said we would never abandon Americans behind enemy lines. But here it is. It has happened.
The Afghanistan thing answers your previous question. Could that ever happen in America? Absolutely, it's already happened. There is a decorated Lieutenant Colonel Marine who's in prison right now simply for criticizing on his own private Facebook page a strategy. He didn't get up and give a speech to his troops. He didn't violate the Uniform Code of Military Justice. He just expressed his opinion as an American citizen. Now, when you're under the UCMJ,
they own you lock, stock, and barrel. That's for the term, government issued. G.I. Joe stands for government. For those who don't know, it stands for government issued Joe. You raise your hand and you take that oath. You're signing over your life.
So you do have
hold the Constitution.
They do have some rights that they take away from you. Okay, like you couldn't stand up in formation and criticize your commanding officer.
Right.
I mean, you could be arrested for that.
Sure.
Right. But you don't give up your right to vote. Right? That's an expression of your personal beliefs. And to say that he doesn't have the right to respectfully criticize when the generals right now, I was watching them this morning, Biden lied and said all the generals told him that that they couldn't.
They didn't recommend leaving behind
any troops.
Yeah, and somebody's lying there. Either Biden's lying or all those generals are lying.
And all the generals now are saying we did tell him to, but we're in an advisory capacity. Here's something that I think that the vast majority of Americans totally misunderstand. If you were to ask the average American, what's the chain of command for the military?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know the president's a commander-in-chief.
Right.
Who's next?
After the vice president.
Okay. And then militarily.
Oh, militarily, honestly, I know the line of succession from president to vice president to speaker, but on a military level, I don't know. Maybe.
But as far as commanding the military troops,
who
it's
comes
the
after?
commander-in-chief,
Mm-hmm.
and then 99% of Americans would tell you next in line is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Because, each branch of the military has a chief of staff,
Right.
Army and Navy, Marine Corps, and one of them is chosen by the president, sort of like the Chief Justice of the Supreme
Sure.
Court,
Right.
to be the chairman. Okay, so the only people in the world that ever get 5 stars are the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and they're the only ones that are visible to the public.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody thinks that they have authority in the chain of command. They have zero authority. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff can't order anybody around except his own staff at his office.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't command the military. He is an advisor. The Joint Chiefs of Staff are a little military panel or committee that advise the president. And he says that they advised him to pull everybody out. They were cowardly, and publicly they backed his play and said, we advised him not to leave anybody. But now that they're under oath swearing before Congress, they're singing a different song.
Yeah.
To tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not in the chain of command. Okay? It goes directly from the commander-in-chief to the actual head, like the commandant of the Marine Corps, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He's not in the chairman. He's not the chairman or on the Joint Chiefs. He actually is the military commander. There's an admiral that's in charge of the Navy and so on. So the Joint Chiefs are just advisors. And what they told the fake president or not really is immaterial. The real generals all wanted to stay. And they knew what was going to happen. So here's a news flash for you. Prophecy, if you will. We're going back to Afghanistan. After all the blood and treasure that we spent there and all the sacrifices that we made and all the progress we made in keeping our country from being attacked for 20 years, we've abandoned everything that we built, and we're going to have to go back because they're going to launch another attack. It may not be on us initially, maybe on one of our allies, but they'll get around to us. And we're going to have to go back in there militarily. Biden keeps talking about our over-the-horizon capabilities. I love it when they make up these phrases and they say them with such authority that people think there's something behind it. But do you know what over-the-horizon capabilities are?
Do I know what they are?
Yeah, when he talks about it.
Yeah.
You hear him talk about it.
Uh-huh. Right. Well, you've seen how well that works with all those aid workers that were killed.
Yeah. I mean, before we had troops in country, within minutes we could be any place. Over the horizon simply means, what's the horizon? You can't see past the horizon, right?
Right.
You look out of the ocean, that's how far away it is. So the help that our people will need is going to come from over the horizon. That's what that really means. It means that instead of minutes, it's going to take hours, and in some cases, a day or a day and a half to mobilize people and get them moved over. We have no bases, no refueling places. After seeing the way we betrayed our allies, nobody else wants to be our ally. So nobody will allow us to put a base in their country anywhere around Afghanistan or Pakistan. They'll become effectively one country. And the most powerful terrorist force on earth, ISIS, the head of ISIS, has now pledged allegiance to the head of the Taliban. So, if you think the Afghanistan war was expensive, wait till you see what the Afghanistan peace cost us. It's going to be horrendous, and so many more people are going to die because of his treason. Just really makes me sad for America.
I agree with you. It is a dark, dark time. It is a dark hour. And as far as, us expecting the cavalry to come in and save us, we are the cavalry. And we left. And now our nation, people are going to, we haven't felt the full brunt of this in any way, but with this vaccine mandate thing, people are going to be losing jobs. Already people are starting to lose their homes, foreclosures. Here in Phoenix, something like 200 people a day move to Phoenix. This is going to stop once they realize the consequences of moving here. And our real estate market, in the rental market, there's only 3% vacancy.
Whoa.
3% vacancy. In an interview I saw here with a local property manager, they said for every property that they advertise for rent, they literally get a couple hundred applications. So unless you have, good money for a big down payment or a deposit, and sparkling credit, I mean, they're only going to rent to the cream of the crop. So here's somebody, they pack up their family, their belongings, they leave Indiana, Illinois, wherever it is they come from. They get to Phoenix, and they've got a little money saved. They know they're going to have to stay in a hotel for a few weeks until they can find an apartment or a house to rent. But then they get here and they realize that they can't rent a house or an apartment, and pretty quickly those savings run out. And so my belief has been for many, many years that a very large percent, and I know this from working with the homeless. I didn't read this in a book. Our inner city ministry for years dealt with homeless and the homeless problem. And at any given time, about 70% of those people were homeless through choice. In many cases, it was a lifestyle choice. I don't want anybody telling me what to do. Now there's a percentage that is mental illness, and under that same umbrella, but a different umbrella of its own, is alcohol and drug addiction. That's a large contributing factor, but it was only a small percentage of the people who were homeless who had ended up that way through no fault of their own, just through a series of horrible circumstances and events that happened and transpired in their life. Suddenly they found themselves in that situation. This homeless population, as it continues to grow, that small segment that I was just talking about, that segment is going to expand. The other segment is also going to expand along with it. Downtown Phoenix, we have our little tent city. It doesn't look anything yet like Los Angeles, or Portland, or Seattle, but it's fast on its way to becoming that. So we got to pray for America like we've never prayed before.
Yeah. I think we just become so complacent. Most people that you talk with, you say, well, what do you think about, what's happening there? Well, it's pretty terrible. How's it affecting you? Well, we're doing okay. We're able to pay our mortgage. We both have jobs. Kids go to good schools. We have cars. And so they think that their experience is everybody's experience. But there are going to be, as you said, more and more people that aren't going to have homes, just with very little warning. I just talked to a gentleman today. He had gotten a reverse mortgage, and he's 80 years old. He's got his daughter and his 4 grandchildren living with him. And he was just informed by his reverse mortgage company with no warning that in a week they were calling his mortgage. When you get those reverse mortgages, it's for life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they had this little clause stuck in there that you couldn't defer your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's something that's perfectly legal where he lives. He can say, all right, to the county, I want to just not pay taxes this year, and I'll pay them next year. Or you can defer them for 2 or 3 years. Perfectly legal. But in a little hidden clause in his reverse mortgage contract, see, you can't do that. We can call your mortgage. So now, with no mercy whatsoever, they just are going to kick him out of his house. So nobody knows how near how far they could be to disaster. You could lose your job. Most people are, not most people, but a lot of people are one paycheck away from, not having a house. And let me just throw something in here. The reason I don't like leverage is because leverage is dangerous. I mean, it's a two-edged sword. If things are going your way, leverage is great.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not going your way, it can really kill you.
Yes, it can.
Do you know that the biggest problem in housing today, the reason why housing is so expensive, it's because of mortgages?
Can
100
you
years ago,
expand on that?
yeah, 100 years ago, there was no such thing as a mortgage.
Right.
Didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So you buy a house, you either rent or you save and you buy it.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as they started having mortgages, the whole thing changed. Initially, you had to pay 50% down. Well, that's not so bad. All right, at least you got some serious skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But because it was easier to buy a house, you didn't have to have 100%. You only had to have 50%. More people were buying houses, and a lot of them were people that couldn't afford them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kept getting smaller and smaller for decades. 10% down was the norm. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just like, why do we have the Great Financial Panic in 1929? It's because the government allowed 10% leverage. You could put down $10,000 and buy $100,000 worth of stock. So a normal stock correction of 10% ended up being disaster, bankruptcy for not just millions of people, but really for the nation. So leverage definitely was not your friend there. So anyway, they kept making the down payment smaller and smaller. And now I believe if you're a veteran, you can get into a house with 3% down.
I think that's right.
And under Jimmy Carter, he said, well, like they're trying to make everything is a right. Healthcare is a right. Whatever. Things that are not, it was not in the Constitution as a right. It's not a right. So he said the housing was a right. So people who couldn't afford a house, he forced the mortgage companies to allow them to get into a house with no money down. But the problem was they couldn't afford the payments. So he said, okay, we'll give them a balloon mortgage on years. So they'd move out of a $500 apartment into a house that they would have had to pay $2,000 a month for, and live in large, right? With no down payment, because they're still only paying the $500 a month. Just paying the interest. 5 years comes along, they have no skin in the game, they move back out, they go into an apartment. So then we start having the housing problem. Then Bill Clinton made it even worse. Instead of just getting it with no down payment, he was given what's called 10%, and even in some cases 20% mortgages. So a guy moves into a house that needs fixing up, and the mortgage company doesn't get a down payment. They give the guy 10 grand and say, here, fix the house up. Well, if he does, it sort of makes sense, makes the house more valuable. He does the repairs on the roof or whatever. But instead he buys a Cadillac, and he lives there till the balloon's up. He moves out, and now it's even worse, because instead of just the mortgage on the house, there's also this extra 10 or 20% that they gave him. So the mortgage companies are selling the houses way below their cost. That's what started that whole housing bubble that caused the crash of 2008. So if there had never been a mortgage, housing would cost right now, whatever you're paying for your house, wherever you are, 10 to maybe 20% at the most of what it costs now. And it's the same everywhere. Government gets involved in health insurance, So used to be a doctor got paid about the same as a school teacher. Now they all become millionaires. Why? Because of third party paying. You get a little sniffle or a cough, you run off to the doctor. I don't, right? But if somebody else is paying the bill, you go to the doctor, and you don't even look at the bill. I was in the hospital once in intensive care for 10 days, and when they didn't even want to give me the bill, they said, don't worry, the insurance company will take care of it. I said, no, I want to see my bill. So they bring me the bill, and I said, okay, this was never done. I never had this procedure. I wasn't in the emergency room for 12 hours. I was only there for 4 hours. And so I found like a dozen places on there where they charge for things that they didn't do. And you know what they said to me? I said,
What?
well,
What did they say?
what do you care? You're not paying for it. Of course I'm paying for it. It's my taxes that are paying for it. It's my insurance premium that's paying for it. So as soon as somebody else gets involved in paying, whether it's a mortgage or whether it's leverage in the stock market or whether it's healthcare, then suddenly prices go up. Why do you think that inflation or higher education is 5 times the inflation rate of regular inflation, just general inflation? It's because of all the student loans and the grants. Colleges used to be like everybody else. We got to be careful. We have to, take bids. You don't get the best price for things. But all of a sudden, these millions of dollars start pouring in from student loans, and they're building these huge stadiums and these lavish libraries, and the president's got an office as big as my house because it's OPM, it's other people's money. So whenever somebody else becomes the payer, then costs go up. And you can look at it by segment of society and see every place that the government in particular gets involved. But, health insurance itself, terrible idea. I mean, it sounds like a great idea, but the only kind of health insurance we should have is catastrophic health insurance, like somebody's in a bad car accident or they get major cancer. If you break your arm, why should somebody else pay for it? You should at least be responsible and have enough to save enough money to be able to go to the doctor for a broken arm or for a flu if you get it. But the fact that it's all paid for by somebody else, that's why health costs have gone up so much. So here's my little rant for the day.
Well, brother, I think you said it all. You covered it pretty good. All we can do is we encourage everyone to do every day is to just pray. Trust God.
Yeah.
We have to trust God because it's obvious we cannot trust those that the people, either did or did not put in office. Even that's questionable at this point.
Yeah, and it's not just a matter of praying for the people who are in office. We do that. But, most people take like praying for the president as praying that he be safe and so on. What we need to do is pray that he has wisdom, that he gets saved, that he starts following the Word of God instead of the Communist Manifesto, that he use his power wisely for the people, not for whatever his personal agenda is. I sometimes think when we pray, we don't pray right. We don't pray correctly. We don't pray for the important things. If we're praying for our public officials, we should be praying for them to be good public officials, because they have tremendous influence over how our money is spent and whether or not you might be one of those homeless people one day. And by the way, I'll get my little plug in here. Best way to make sure that you're never without food to eat or a place to stay is to have precious metals. And so if you go to cfrngold.com and fill out the form, we will show you how to do that. Give you all the information you need.
And they can do that by going to cfrngold.com and your phone number.
Yes, you can call the office at 561-753-5998. 561-753-5998. My staff will make an appointment if you want to discuss anything. It doesn't have to be about precious metals, anything to do with your personal finances, as long as the understanding is that I've had every license that there is in financial planning, but I don't do financial planning today. So I can't give you personal advice, but I can point you in the right direction. And I've helped a lot of people, informally. So just call the office. I don't usually do this, but we've had such a tremendous surge of people wanting to get precious metals in particular that I'm taking Saturday and doing calls this Saturday. So we do calls, 30-minute calls on Monday through Friday and this week, Saturday as well. So just I'll tell my staff what you need and we'll set up a time to talk with you, okay?
That sounds real good, Dr. Tom.
Okay, brother.
I hope you have a
Lord
good
bless
week.
you all.
Yes, thank you very much for the discussion today. We look forward to you being on with us every Thursday, and I hope people were listening today, not just with their ears, but with their heart, because it's going to take all of us as believers working together, praying together, to handle whatever it is the enemy throws at us in this coming year and in years to come.
Amen.
All right, brother. God bless you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, we're looking at the S&P 500 Emini futures. This is the daily chart. Just want to kind of bring you up to date to where we are based on where we were when the show started. And that's right about the same place. Now, we've taken out this low. We've traded to the bottom of this window of opportunity. We haven't gone back into this window of opportunity yet. If price does continue lower as we move into the close, we have this window of opportunity and then this window of opportunity down here. Okay. On the S&P 30 minute, we traded, we've already discussed this, we triggered on the long side, had a beautiful opportunity, triggered on the short side, took us down to the target and then some. The low of the session so far, 43.05. The actual published entry was 43.32, and this all happened in one 30-minute candle. The target is on a short alert. It's always the zone below. In this case, 23.24. So that's 8 points, $50 a point, $400 per contract traded. Price did continue lower. Buyers came in, pushed us up to the weekly trading zone, and this is the lowest weekly trading zone this week for the ES. If resistance holds here, this is resistance times 2. We got a weekly zone and red and falling. So that's 2 reasons we would expect this area to be good resistance. If in fact they do turn out to be good resistance, and we'll look for another leg to the downside. We triggered long and short on the CTA last night for the Dow, from the published entry to the published target, from the published entry to the published target, where we've been consolidating now for the last couple of hours. Only 3 things happen at a weekly trading zone. The most likely thing is this right here, consolidation. Consolidation. Even this is consolidation. It's not a slice because the previous candle also touched the zone. So the market spent an hour dealing with this zone. Consolidation, rejection, and the slice are the only 3 things that happen at a weekly zone. On the Russell, we got rejected at the CTA on the long side. We did trigger on the short side. And then on this little pullback here, price managed to just dip below the trigger. Not by much. We put in a low at 22.05.10, so it was 1 tick short. 1 tick short of 2 points right there. It's kind of hidden behind the arrow. Pull this over and you can see it a little better. Now price working its way up to the BBC. And at the BBC, we expect that to be resistance, like it was here. The pullback holds more often than it doesn't. So if price continues to climb, to the BBC. We expect that to be resistance, give us another leg to the downside. If price can get on the north side of the BBC, then that opens the door for an opportunity to trade the market from basically 22.29 up to 22.32. It's about a 3-point opportunity at $50 a point, $150 per contract traded. On the NQ, the long side, the trigger was 148.18. Again, the vertical line separates yesterday Wednesday from today Thursday. We had some windows of opportunity drawn in yesterday that filled today. Okay, not unusual. We had this window of opportunity on the long side. Many hours passed, and then they filled and filled and filled and filled. This one has filled multiple times, while these have just been filled for the first time. Price triggered short. Well, on the long side, we triggered at 818, and we ran up to the target, the published target, at 880. So if we take 880 and we subtract 818, that's 62 points at $20 a point. It's $1,240 per contract traded. From the published entry to the published target, $1,240 per contract traded. Okay, then price dipped back below the trigger. Actually dipped below the trigger there just barely, and did the same thing. Another $1,200 move. Then we got back below the trigger, and it did another $1,200 move. The only caveat here is on this move, okay, the BBC was just above the trigger, and so you really need, and we had just come off of red and falling, turning into blue and climbing, so you needed to see price get above the BBC before taking your long position, and then it made that same $1,200 run right up to the published target. On the short side, from 14,705, price dropped to 14,685, so that's 20 points, $20 a point. It's $400 per contract traded. And then this candle opened here, and it continued dropping, and then we got back above the trigger. Now we've pulled up to the BBC. We expect that to be good resistance until proven otherwise. And another leg to the downside. If price can overcome the BBC, then we want to see red and falling turn into blue and climbing, and then we may have another opportunity to trade the CTA on the long side back up to the zone. That is the lowest weekly zone this week, 14,880/881. However, as we trigger this time, looking left, we see that we have potential resistance right here at 14,832, and then again at 843, then again at 866. So there is opportunity to the upside. There are obstacles that have to be overcome each step of the way up. What's most important right now is what happens here at the BBC. Is it the good resistance we anticipate, which gives us another leg to the downside? Or are buyers committed enough to push us through the BBC and through the long trigger? Now, as you know from the logic alerts and from everything you learn in the live training room, you don't have to wait for price to actually get to an alert price, because you're learning the methodology and strategy yourself in the live training room. As I mentioned at the top of the show, our goal is to teach you to be self-sufficient so that you're not dependent upon us to tell you when to get in, when to get out. And so as price pushes higher, depend upon your risk tolerance, the trigger's up at 818. Okay, we're not going to get another candle for 23 minutes. So in this case, you probably do want to break that trigger, but keep in mind the high of this candle, 32, is potential resistance, but still plenty of room for a 10-point trade opportunity at $20 a point, and that's $200 per contract trade. On crude oil, CTA last night was 75.05 on the long side. The target was just above at 75.20. And so price made the run. It's 15 points, $150 per contract traded. And then we got, on this one, we ran back up first and then we dropped below, so this wasn't a second trigger. And then we triggered again, and that took us up to the zone at 75.20, so another $150 per contract traded. And then again, again, and again, and again. So about 5 triggers on the long side. On the short side, 74.30, that was the published entry, the published target. Obviously the weekly zone below. 73.70, that's $600 per contract traded. On gold, 17.36 was the long trigger. The target was 17.42 because that's the zone overhead. It's a $600 per contract move. Now, you'll notice as we trigger, the step line is on the left side of blue and climbing. Price is to the left side of the step line. Okay, that's a perfect bullish setup for a long trade. You'll notice all the way up, even after we hit the target, you know, our traders who understand this concept know that just because we hit the target doesn't mean you have to exit the trade. You look at the structure of the market. The structure of the market is extremely bullish because price is to the left of the step line is to the left of blue and climbing. So you've got lots of bullish momentum here. And then we ran right up to this weekly trading zone at 1765/66. We still have one more zone overhead. This thing ran from 36 almost to 66. It's almost, that's just shy of a $3,000 per contract move. Now you'll notice the step line after the market put in the high, and you don't know it's the high until after the fact. But look at how your step line, as price starts to walk sideways, this step line goes from the left side to the right side of blue and climbing. So if you did not take profit here, or here, or here, or here, then you should have taken profit here at the official exit signal. Once the step line goes from the left side of blue and climbing to the right side of blue and climbing, the first red candle that closes below the step line after it crosses over, that's the market saying, I'm looking to retrace back to the BBC. You might want to take your profit. right here at 1756.60. So if you stuck in there, hung in there for this entire move to the upside, that bell is for you. And then last, silver. No trigger on the short side. The long side triggered at 21.92. And from 21.92 we ran right up to the target overhead at 22.14. So that's from, let's see, so that's 8, 14, 22, that's 22 pennies. 100 pennies is 5 grand. So between 1,100-1,200 bucks on this move right here. Silver's volatile, margins are high. Be careful with silver. We remain very bullish long term on both gold and silver. And that brings us to our good word for the day. Yesterday, we asked the question, have you consulted God about it? Whatever issue it is that you might be going through, whatever your circumstances are in life right now, if you're struggling with anything, have you talked to God about it? Have you really asked Him? And so today, we're going to talk about your Euroclydon. That's EUROCLYDON, your Euroclydon. Acts 27:14. But not long after, a tempestuous headwind arose called Euroclydon. Sounds like some kind of medication. The ship Paul was sailing on to Rome was wrecked by a storm named Euroclydon, meaning typhoon, tempest, or cyclone. Here are some valuable lessons we can learn from Paul's experience. Number 1, God can make a bad situation work for your good. Because of this shipwreck, Paul ended up on Malta, where the people heard the gospel for the first time. Plus, when he and his followers departed, they provided such things as were necessary. That's Acts 28:10. Sometimes your problem can provide a platform for God to work in ways that will amaze you. Your future isn't, nor ever will be, in the hands of people. Your future is in God's hands, and what He owns, He protects and provides for. Here's the second lesson that we can learn from Paul's bad situation when he got shipwrecked. To reach your God-ordained destination, you'll have to sail through storms. In Acts 27:20, Paul says, all hope that we would be saved was finally given up. There will be days when you wonder how you're gonna make it. But by God's grace, you'll see. You can study that, Psalm 37:34. Number 3, storms reveal how well you know the Lord. Paul said in Acts 27:23, last night an angel of the Lord, to whom I belong and whom I serve, stood beside me and said, do not be afraid, Paul. You see, in hard times, you discover the strength of your connection to God. Number 4, He can bring success from what looks like failure. There's two particular things in this story that you might want to meditate on. As Paul did, you and his shipmates, you may have to throw some things overboard to reach your destination. And then, despite your best efforts, occasionally you'll run aground. That's when you must remember what God promised you and stand on it. And that's our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.